What's up, beautiful people? The Locked On ACC family, new listeners, how y'all doing? We are getting into March. It is tournament time. It is conference tournament time. It's big dance time. We are going to get into all things bracketology and betting. But Candace and I, we're good at what we do, but we're not perfect. We know that we need a little bit of help. As the old song goes, I get by with a little help from my friends. And I got my very good friend, Mike Randle from the FTN For the Numbers Network in today to talk all things bracketology, Joe Lunardi, and some tournaments, and some best bets, because we know sports betting is getting legalized in the new state every day. So we're going to help y'all make some money. Mike, you ready to get into it?
Kenton, I'm ready. Thanks so much for having me. This is the best time of year, and this week for the next 10 days is the best time, absolutely. Conference tournaments, major conference tournaments, and the opening weekend of March Madness. Nothing better.
Well, absolutely. Let's get into it on today's episode of Locked On ACC.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Before we get into bringing you all this great content, I have to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out at nissanusa.com. Now, I got my main man, Mike Randle, in the building, and we talked about this a little bit off air, but bracketology and all that good stuff that has long heralded the ACC as one of the favorites. The ACC has long been a darling in college basketball, and it seems that the ACC has lost that status. But the way in which some conferences are being alleged, and let me just say this, I don't give a damn, sue me. The Big 12 is outright gaming the system, right, with scheduling a bunch of JV teams in the Island of Misfit Toys University Community College of Southeast Delta Valley State. And so we're in a situation where these teams beat up on a bunch of nobodies, and then when they get into the season, they play each other. So it's like, oh no, Kansas lost to Oklahoma State. What a wonderful Oklahoma State team that is. And it's like, oh no, UNC lost to Georgia Tech. What a terrible ACC this year. Ew, gross. And it's just one of those things that is very upsetting for me and other ACC fans. But that's why you're here. You're a third party that doesn't have a dog in this fight. You can go to all of the Locked On Network and say, hey, I prefer being on the Locked On Big 12 show, if that is your prerogative. So I want to know, do you think bracketology is still accurate and even worth it? Or is it one of those things that's more so like, this is talking heads kind of talking themselves into a circle about who they do and don't like just because they do and don't like somebody?
Yeah, I like the big wins. So I have no issue here with putting teams in any conference, ACC, SEC, Big 12, that have those big wins. But I agree with you. Losing to West Virginia is no worse than losing to Georgia Tech. Every conference has a weak bottom here. And like you said, look at Iowa State. I think Iowa State's really good, but their non-conference schedule was atrocious. Why are they doing that? Because they know the Big 12 is going to rank highly, and they know they're going to pick up those points during the regular season. But Kenton, I'll say this. If you get North Carolina, Duke, and a sleeper that I like into the Elite Eight, no one's going to say a word, because how you judge good conference and how you judge the strength of the conference is arbitrary. Some people say Big 12 is the best because they had Baylor and Kansas win the national title recently. So that means we ignore the bottom. I don't know how it gets defined, but I'll say this. The teams that make it from the ACC are just as dangerous as any other teams in the big conferences.
Well, that's a shock, because from what I was hearing, the Mountain West is just as if not more dangerous than the ACC, which objectively, time after time, and this is the thing that bothers me so much about bracketology and the net and all this and all that about the rankings here. At some point in time, you have to do this fun thing where the ref throws up the ball. Two players go after the tip, and then there are four other players around both of those players, and they got to play some basketball. And time again, when that happens, especially in tournament time, you just talked about, hey, you got two in the possible in terms of folks who can make it to the Elite Eight or deeper. Time and time again, the ACC is putting those teams into deep tournament runs, and every time people act surprised. Well, who could have guessed that Miami and Isaiah Wong were this good? Well, who could have guessed this UNC team was this good? Who could have guessed that John Shire or Coach K's last year? Who could have guessed? And it's like, we all could have told you this. We all could have told you that the ACC is, in fact, as good, if not better than advertised from the number standpoint. Because, again, there's this fun thing called the eye test, and it has to matter somewhat to what we're doing here. I get it. You don't want to get too subjective and too into the weeds. But to me, it's just, if your numbers keep crunching out an equation that keeps being flipped on its head completely, at some point in time, you have to look at your equation and say, there's something wrong there. The math ain't mathing, as the new kids like to say.
Kenton, I compare it to poker all the time. Not because I love playing poker, because I do, but there's a combination. You have to know your chance of hitting the flush, but you also have to look at the person across the table from you and in your gut know whether they're bluffing or not. Math is good. Gut, marry it together. That's the perfect combination. Can't go one way or the other completely. So what I like to do is I look at the numbers. I look at big wins. All that stuff matters. But in the end, we had Duke and North Carolina in the Final Four very recently. The top Miami was in there last year. The top teams in the ACC can hold their ground. Sure, there's a couple teams that are disappointing. Same in the SEC. Same in the Big 12. Same wherever. Mount West, little much with the Mount West where people are going. There are a couple teams are dangerous, but by and large, the ACC is going to be heard from, and we have teams in here that have proven it time and time again. You'll see them in March, and that's why everybody will have to be quiet then. Right.
And I think the most interesting thing about Joe Lunardi in particular in bracketology is, like, of all the bracket predictors and creators and all that, he's like very, like, slightly below the middle of the pack in terms of the ability to create not only accurate predictions of who's in and who's out, but also in terms of predicting, like, who's actually going to succeed, who's going to do well in terms of conferences. And I'm going to just tell you this, okay? I would love to be completely middle of the road at my job and just get promoted to one of the biggest platforms, one of the biggest stages. I love it. You know, I want to know who he has dirt on out there in Bristol or New York or LA or wherever they are. But that's neither here nor there. Let me ask you this. If you were to kind of come up with something different from the net, or if you were to tweak or adjust the net, what would you do to make it a more equitable and sensible situation, not just to benefit the ACC, but to benefit all of college basketball?
Yeah, the thing that bothers me, and look, I have no problem taking a stand. I appreciate you because you have to take a stand. I was all over Virginia, up and down. You can check our podcast saying that they were going to win the national title the year after they were eliminated. Number two, I was on Florida Atlantic last year. From start to finish, you can look that up. I think you have to plant your flag on certain teams and just stay with them, not go middle of the road. What I would do is this. I want to reward success. I want to see small school teams that play really well get in. I hope, Kenton, that Indiana State gets in. Problem is they were buried by Drake 47-29 midway through the second half, had a big comeback and fell short. So I think success should be rewarded and wins should matter. How many times have you seen a team like Syracuse with the ghost of Malachi Richardson make a run to the Final Four? I want teams that have had success. I don't want to hear if a team in the ACC is 10-8, that is a good enough record to get in. I struggle with the major conferences that are like 7-9, things like that. Right. But I think you have to reward the regular season a little more, specifically with the mid-majors. That's my big beef. You mentioned you had a team like a Charleston or someone, Old Dominion years ago. They go 28-5, Kenton, and they end up making the finals of their conference and they lose. I think that team should be in. So that's my major gripe is, like you said, everybody can lose in the non-conference here and there, but you should reward those teams, particularly those that are playing well at the end of the season.
Absolutely. And you know what? I too would like to see the Sycamores get into the tournament. So we'll see how that goes. And now we're going to get into the men's tournament in terms of the ACC, because we're going to talk about, is there going to be a bid stealer in this thing, or is this thing going to go chalk enough to where we got everything holding stable? We'll talk about all of that and more in just a second here. But folks, I have got to talk to you all about Nissan. It is very clear to me that this is the brand to be. This is where you want to be in terms of your next vehicle, because like we've already talked about, if you are looking for the type of vehicle that takes you on any adventure, any road, any terrain you want to be on, this is where you want to be. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives or great escapes. Class exclusive, Google built-in is yours always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of having to connect your phone and then hope that Google works and then hope that everything works out with all that. Don't worry about it, okay? Google Maps, Google Assistant, Google Play Store, all built right into a 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. So, Mike, we're talking about the ACC men's tournament because the brackets are finally set. We know who's going to go where. And let's just get this out the way early, okay? Because I know the Locked On ACC fans, they get a little antsy. They don't like to be teased with it and make them wait. So please tell me this. Do you think that we will see a bid Steeler win the tournament? Or do you think that it's going to be a team that was already in, that's already had some success, one of the big three of the UNC, Duke, or Virginia that take it home in this one?
I don't think there'll be a bid Steeler. I have a couple teams that I think can make a big sleeper run, but I don't think it's a bid Steeler. I do not think it's Virginia. I'm throwing them out. I'm done, Kenton, with their offense. And listen, Tony Bennett's one of the best coaches of college basketball. Yeah. Amazing job. They're just not at the same level. If I see Ryan Dunn shoot another air ball from the free throw line, they just don't have enough offense. However, Duke, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and I got a couple other teams too that I think can make a run. There's only one that I have in my mind that would be a bid Steeler, but I do think there's a chance that it's someone besides the top two.
Okay, so who would you? And like I said, we've talked about the fact that, you know, for the Numbers Network, y'all talk all the numbers, including the casholas, the dinero, the euros, the yen. So who would you say has some great value in terms of hey, this is my horse, I want to ride him for the ACC tournament?
The team that I put today in our article that I think is a dark horse is Clemson. Now, if you look at the bracket, Kenton, and I want to go for the people who are listening here, we'll go round by round. You look at that first round, you got BC, my alma mater, Miami, Louisville, NC State, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. I don't see any of those teams making a significant run. Miami just doesn't have it. The chemistry is gone. Notre Dame is playing very well. So I could definitely, Micah Shrewsbury does an amazing job. That backcourt is good. They're getting better. They've pulled a couple upsets. So I could see a situation where they possibly beat Wake Forest and move on to the next round, but that's it. Now let's go to the second round. Virginia Tech, Florida State. I can't see them putting together enough games. Wake Forest, no way. Now let's get to the bottom two. Number one, don't sleep on Syracuse, because I remember Kemba Walker out here. I'm in New Jersey in the tri-state area, who put UConn on his back and went absolutely ballistic with that team, took them all the way through a March Madness.
But hold on now. And that's what surprised me a little bit, because I like Judah Mintz too. I love me some Judah Mintz. I'm surprised you don't have any faith in Padula and Couture for Virginia Tech to potentially nothing.
I'm going to tell you, because Kenton, I don't trust Lynn Kidd inside. I think that inside they're just and they have to shoot extremely well. And I think away from home, they don't. I've waited for them and I've wanted them to get going. Just too many ups and downs down the stretch. That's my issue with Virginia Tech. You look at their schedule, lost to Pittsburgh, lost to Syracuse. Yes, they ended up beating Notre Dame, but that game was too close. Even the Wake Forest game at home, they won. Wake Forest isn't great. I don't think they can beat North Carolina. That's really what it is also.
Okay, proceed with your take on Syracuse. Tell me about Judah Mintz and why you believe in Syracuse.
Oh, Judah Mintz can put everybody on their back. He could have that type of he has that ability. Just an elite scorer, gets the basket. Adrian Autry figured things out in his first year, and I'm an old Syracuse fan from way back in Derek Coleman's days, so they're a possibility. But the team that I think is your long shot that I put in as the one that I want to pick if you're going deep is Clemson at plus 850. They entered the season 27th in D1 experience, Kenton, so they got a lot of experience on the roster. They were 63rd minutes continuity, so a lot of players have come back that have played, and 21st in average height. They shoot 36 from three-point range. They got PJ Hall in the interior. Shiflin's the X factor, and they're really good from the free throw line. You add those things up, they beat North Carolina, which they never do. And basically, Kenton, let's keep it real. They beat Duke at Duke, but that was a terrible call.
Hey.
Which is fine. So that's the one as a team. Brad Bromel's not a sexy guy. People don't get it fired up for Clemson basketball, but they got Gerard, they got Hall, they shoot the three. Chase Hunter's playing well. That's a team I think is your sleeper.
Okay, all right. So tell me this. Who's your favorite? Who's your safe money that's like, hey, this bet ain't going to get you a house in the Hamptons, but it's going to pay for your lunch next week?
Well, Kenton, you're going to give me North Carolina plus 150. I mean, I thought they'd be minus 110. I'll take it. They are not losing to Virginia Tech or Florida State. And I guess Pittsburgh is different. Blake Hinton certainly can go on fire, etc. But I don't think they can get through North Carolina. Hubert Davis brought in Cormac Ryan. He brought in so many great players that really put them together and has been fantastic. And, they surround Armando Bacot. He's been up and down, but he's a solid figure with a high floor. Harrison Ingram's been tremendous, and R.J. Davis is a first-team All-American. You can make an argument that R.J. Davis is the best player in the country. He is that good and has played that well. So you're going to give me plus money with North Carolina, who I think is flying through to the finals. I'll be happy to take it.
Okay. All right. I like it. I like what you're talking there. I like what you're telling me. So long story short, what I'm hearing is one of the orange teams or North Carolina. Clemson, Syracuse, North Carolina. Those are your big three of where you're like, this feels safe. This feels good to me.
And even, Kenton, if you want to get – it's the eye test, like you said, and you marry the models. We've run 10,000 simulations at FTN. So we have our model, run the simulations. Best number one odds are Duke. We give them plus 246, so a little bit better than what you're seeing out there. North Carolina right behind them at 276. Who do you think has the third best odds? Clemson at plus 738, and they are the 6th seed. So that's why I added up. It's one of the orange teams or one of those blue bloods. Virginia is not beating Duke. If they'd have to McNeely'd have to have 9 threes in that game. Their offense just isn't at that level. It really isn't. And that's just saying it's a down year. Tony Bennett can bring it up next year, but it's Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, long shot Syracuse. That's how I see it. All
right. Well, y'all heard it here first now. This man, he didn't say they run 5 models, 100 models. How many models?
10,000.
10,000. Okay. That's more miles than no girl said she would walk. She said she would walk 1,000 miles if she could just see you tonight. Well, we got 10,000 models here. And Mike is telling you where the money is lying. Okay. And I'm going to just tell you. The way that these eggs costing $8 a car right now, I'm trying to be where the money resides. But we going to get into that a little bit later. We're going to finish this thing out talking about who's got the best chance to go deep overall in the big dance. Because the ACC tournament is nice. The NCAA tournament is better. We're going to talk all that and land this thing in just a second. But before we do, I've got to tell you all about one of the best, and when I say the best, I mean one of the best places to put down all of this money. No other place than FanDuel. Let's make this thing very clear, okay? You can make every moment more with FanDuel. New customers can join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just think about how insane that is, okay? You place a $5 bet that hits, and you get $200. I'm just saying free is for me, okay? Free 99, you can't beat that with a stick. And that's what FanDuel is giving to all of our listeners, everybody who wants to be a part of this thing. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. I'm telling you, it's America's #1 sports book for a reason. Don't play around. Don't miss out on this great opportunity to make yourself a little extra Skrilla. And again, we got a betting expert here today to help you out with that. Now, with that being said, let's get into the end of the season altogether. Let's get into the best bets for the big dance, okay? Because you talked about a sleeper. You gave us a little bit of I told you I ain't like a tease, but Mike said, hey, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to still give y'all just enough to keep it coming back. So tell me, who are the teams that you look at out of the ACC that you would say on the men's side, hey, this is a team? Because we know on the women's side, you've got a plethora of teams. take your choice. Throw a rock in the huddle, and you're going to hit somebody that's going to make it to the at least Sweet 16. But on the men's side, tell me who you're looking at to say this team is primed for a run.
Well, assuming we haven't seen the brackets yet, so it's bracket dependent, matchup dependent.
Right.
I mean, last year, Duke had a really nice bracket, but they ended up running into Tennessee. Veteran team, pushes them around, Shire's first year, etc. So it's all about the matchups. However, North Carolina can certainly make the Final Four. They're great. They're balanced. They have experience. They've gotten there before. And RJ Davis is just a killer. He's that good. People are going to start saying, Kenton, that he can't play in the NBA because of size, like they said about Jalen Brunson. We saw how that turned out. RJ Davis is a special player. Duke can also make a run. They have balance. They have depth. Jared McCain is starting hitting a lot of threes. So they certainly can make a run. They've only lost 4 times here since, December 4th? I mean, they were 19-3 before that last game against North Carolina. No shame in losing to them. I certainly said Clemson can make a run. In fact, I went on the VSiN Vegas Sports and Information Network, and I put Clemson in my Final Four. I just think they're the team that has balance, that has height, they can make their free throws. They have everything you need to make a run. And again, the last team I'll throw out is someone is going to get hot from the play-in game. Every year, except for one of those 11 or 12 games, that's the first 4 games that we have before we start, that team always gets hot. Take a look last year. How about Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh rolls in that matchup. They beat Mississippi State by 1. Then they crush Iowa State by 18. Then they play Xavier, almost win that game. So if an ACC team were to find their way in there, Syracuse, etc., they can absolutely make a run and get going here. If one of these other teams get on a far run, that is the place that I target, because one of those teams, you have the 2 16 seeds, and then 2 of the other teams, one of them always gets hot, starting with VCU the first year, took it all the way to the Final Four. So that's kind of my roundup. One of those ACC teams makes those first 4. Other than that, NC Duke, and of course, Clemson, who I love.
Okay. And you know what? Again, and did y'all also run 10,000 models for the big tournament? I know that y'all don't have the bracket set yet, so it's tough to even predict it. Okay. All right.
Not yet, but it's coming.
Well, listen, y'all know the deal here, okay? On Locked On ACC, we love to show our guests some hospitality, and we love to expand your horizons into listening to our guests as well. So, Mike, tell the folks where they can find your work.
Come over to FTN Fantasy. It's one stop. We have everything you need. FTN Bets, promo code FTN Hoops, get you 35% off. You can join us. We have the models. We have the Sims, everything you want. FTN Daily as well. Join me here. Talk to me at Randle Rant. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm smart. Just tell me something here on X Machine. Love to get back to you. Thanks for having me, Ken. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem at all. And I'm going to tell you, the Locked On ACC fans, this is a tough group. They'll tell you if you're crazy. Trust me. They've called me and Candace everything but good Christians on multiple occasions now. So, we need to let you know that you're asking for something, and you're going to get it most likely with these wonderful regulars that we got on Locked On ACC. We got the best fans in the world, and I hope that they turn into Mike Randle and FTN fans as well, because you're great at what you do, and we got to have you back. When the actual brackets are set for men's and women's, we got to have you back. I need to have you back on so we can talk through this thing, all right?
Anytime, man. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for being on. Folks, Candace Cooper will be back tomorrow, but signing off for Kenton Gibbs and Mike Randle. Till next time, folks.